I did not find that screw, but I keep a stash of screws from all my other work that I've done that I can find valuable. I hold on to it, pack rat if you want to call it, but I have another screw, actually a package of them that matches those screws. So I'm just going to save myself that trouble because that was going to take way too much time because this screw that I dropped is nowhere near to be found. So anyway, I'm going to set this one aside. I'm going to do a few of the door swaps. Now, what I've done here for the drawer face swaps, the real drawers, these here, they are held in place by these tabs here. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah. These are held in place by these discs that are screwed in from the edge. And these discs are screwed into the face of the drawer on the other side of this right here. Yep, they're screwed on the other side of this with a screw. So that way you can loosen up the screw and this drawer front will adjust up and down. And anyway, so that makes the adjustment a lot easier, but I like getting it close. So I put this in a drawer front jig, which is this thing that I was working off of right here, and I adjusted to this edge so that when they're all consistent, I can just simply put the drawer face in, and it'll automatically hold that dimension so that this drawer face will go practically exactly. Well, that's the hope, at least anyway, to go exactly where the old one is, because I had this edge here as a reference mark duplicated on my jig over here, and I'll readjust that to match this door here. Okay, I'm just pushing it right up to the, I took this off, that's my reference gauge, and I'm placing this right up against the stop that I have here. Go ahead and, like I said, I'll do another shot here. I removed this piece here, which is what I use for my reference point to put up against this back edge. But right now I have the drawer face down on top of a protected surface and bumped up against this stop, so that it's automatically going to go into a place. See if I got this right. I'm not looking at the right angle, but anyway, it's up against this one stop right here, so that I can bump it. You heard it hit right there, and then this will go up against the edge of this to automatically give me that reference. Now I have 6 drawers to do like this, and I can measure and measure and measure and not use this, but I'm thinking if I set this up once, and I've used it before on multiple drawer installs, that if I use this and have it set up and set up properly, that this will be quite handy to, well, make it easy to get my reference points. So I'm going to go ahead and run the screws back in. Okay, good. Now I can take this drawer face off. And that will come off. And take this out of its place. And put the new drawer face in its place and then set this right back, and that should be automatically right where it needs to be at. I don't have the drawer faces unpacked, so I'm going to pause that and do that. All right, I found the drawer fronts that I need. I got a stash of them there, and I have another stash over that way as well. So what I'm going to do is, just like I've mentioned, see, these are already have their reliefs. Again, because these are mass produced, so it's not a big issue for the cabinet installer to simply make the same things they already have in their production line and just, change the color like was asked and put it back together again. Okay, so there's that. That's up against that stop. And the only thing I have to watch out for is just measuring from this side here to this side over there. But I could still put the screws back in that hold the drawer face in place and then measure that after the fact. Got to make sure to go in square. And that's dead on like it was before. Again, I just have to measure the left and right. I got 7/8 of an inch. And I have about, no, that's 7/8 of an inch as well. So that fell right back into place like it did before. So I'm tickled about that. All right, that's one drawer down. All right, as typical, I got the other stuff that I've already prepped, and I got that ran upstairs, but I have yet a few more drawers to do yet. And fortunately, these drawers are matching the depth from the bottom, using my jig setup from the first drawer that I did. So there's the top drawers, which I just done. Well, one of them, and then I got two middle drawers, and those always have the same respect from the bottom of the drawer to the bottom of the carcass. This is the drawer box, if you want to call it that. And typical when you're dealing with cabinets that are made in factory or however you want to describe it, these are all custom made, but they are made in a shop that specializes in this stuff. They usually have the two top drawers, the top running in a 3-drawer base, all set up so that the bottoms are the same distance from the bottom of the drawer face to the bottom of the drawer box. So I've started with a top shelf, and now the middle shelves. I started with a top drawer. And now I'm moving on with the middle drawer, and those will work out good for this jig setup that I have. It'll make things come into place very nicely. I'll have to adjust it again with the pieces that I have. I'm going to live and learn about this one a little bit, and I'm just going to see what it means, because with the way these things are adjusted, they might fall into place as it is. Good, I even have a microphone still. This thing goes south. Battery dies very quickly, so I was concerned about that happening at any time, and I still have no solid idea yet and on what the battery life is, so I'm still sorting that problem out also. Again, I'm relatively new at this. I've only done just that one series at first with the staircase, and I'm still not done that yet, but I just had a small revelation. Since the bottom drawers are at a different depth off the bottom, these ones that are pre-punched, most likely they're going to have that difference, and I don't want to wind up putting the wrong one on the wrong drawer. So I want to make sure I get this right. So those holes match up, so at least I know I'm heading the right direction with this one. Make sure I got that right in the camera. Yeah. So that being said, I want to just quickly go through and make sure either they're all punched the same or not. And this one does look different. Oh, it's even a taller drawer. Then it's a no-brainer. These are the bottom drawers. I didn't recall that from my last visit here. So now that being said, I can go ahead and start with that. I got this little drawer gawking at me. I'm going to start and finish with this little drawer here that matches the other one that I already have upstairs. I'm just going to do that first. Just to get it out of the way, because it's leaning over there. Not leaning, but it's sitting over there, and it's just more or less a candidate to get damaged if I don't control this situation now. See, like this gets jumbled up way too easily, way too quickly. So let's just say that we got that where it needs to be at. And I'm just going to drop the screws in this thing and say that it's going to just literally just fall in place. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. But I'm going to measure it, and these are, they're still adjustable. It's not like I can't come back and do something with them. But I'm going to measure just for the heck of it. And I got a light 7/8 And I have, yeah, I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit. Okay. Didn't take much movement when it makes a whirl of it. Yep, there you go, dead on it. All right, so I'm going to set this one out of the way. And resume with the one that I was talking about to begin with, at least recently. And they just literally just drop right down in those recesses. The holes line up from the other setting. I'm going to double check it now before I commit this wholeheartedly. And that's a good number right there. If it's 7/8 on this side, it will be 7/8 on the other side. Okay. And another one down. Again, when it drops in place, the holes just line right up. You see that needs to go down a little. Yep, right there. I was going to do more, but the battery went dead on that drill, so I'm going to take some drawers up and get my screw gun from upstairs. All right, I got my screw gun. I'm happy to have this one, even though I was working that one pretty good. It's just that I would much rather have a magnetic driver tip as opposed to not having one. So it looks like I need to adjust my jig again. And you know, I might not even worry about that. These are dropping into place really very nicely on their own. The last set of drawers that I did, they didn't have this feature for the adjustment. You actually had to micro tune the shelves with a, I'll just say it was a different arrangement because it was, yeah, just needed to be done differently. So, oh wow. Okay, now I can see why the jig would be nice. All right, the larger reveal is at the bottom. Okay. It's larger. These holes are so close to being the same, but they are slightly larger. This is larger than this section up here, and that designates the bottom with a larger space. See, I like this. It's got the magnetic tip on it. This tip has just got a magnet built into it, so when I put the screw in, it'll stay there rather than just simply dropping off. So it's a nice feature to work with whenever you're doing things in a tight spot like this. So I really like that feature. It's not the drill, it's the accessory on the drill. Although I do like this brand. It's been really good for me. I gotta finish tightening those up. All right. Now I got to relocate upstairs, so I'll resume up there. All right, I brought some of the doors, and I brought a set of scribes with me as well, and I'll show you where they're going to be used at for this panel over here. The panel is made tall with good reason. I'd forgotten that this floor that this cabinet's set on, it's an older home. I think the original was built in 1912, and maybe this is an addition, but it's still an older floor. And the floor is slumped away from the wall by about 1/2 inch. You don't see it until you're doing stuff like this. So I had this panel brought in 1/2 inch taller so I can scribe the bottom. In other words, cut the bottom at an angle so it meets the floor, so that when you're standing in the room, it looks good, it meets the floor like it's supposed to, rather than having a tapered gap at the bottom, making it look like it's floating, which is not supposed to be a floating cabinet. So that'll get past that issue, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. But for now, I got this door set in place, and I'll go ahead and set the door that I finished off hinge-wise, and the drawer front. Plus, and I'll get the drawers in too, and I'll get into adjusting those and such. You'll see. But these hinges are quick release hinges. They click on and pop off real easy. Like, again, they just engage into a catch here on the inside corner, and then I'll click on in to where, yeah, this has got a little, I don't know if I can get that to even show up on the camera properly, but that, you might be able to see that moves. And if not, I'll show it this way then. This, oh God, I can't keep it steady enough. Anyway, that grabs the clip on the inside of the cabinet. You'll hear it snap in twice, once for each hinge, once I get it in place. That's not the snap. That just where it went into the detent. That's the snap when it goes in place. And then same thing with the bottom. Got to get it in the detent proper. Well, that's not going to, oh yes it will. These hinges went about 1/8 of an inch different than the original hinges, so they're not quite lining up exactly at the place where they were for the other doors. So that's within adjustment of these hinges, and they'll still need to be adjusted as well. But I'm going to go ahead and lower the hinge to get it to engage that. I'm going to lower the hinge plate in order to get it to engage with the hinge properly. And it snaps in. Let's see how they look together. They're soft close, so they'll take your time. And while that's going on, I have these drawers labeled from their original marks. See, I always draw right on the bottom, so that's a L1. You might not see it from there, but it's a L1. That means it's, you know, left side, first drawer. And these just simply go in, and you can hear the catches. This one still needs to be adjusted a little bit, but that's going to be the case no matter what. And this drawer, I'm not going to put these drawers in, as a matter of fact, because I got to mount this panel from the inside of this cabinet. I'm running screws through this inside wall to screw into the back of that, so I'm not going to put these drawers in place yet. I'm going to set them aside and see if I can find, if I have, nope, I don't have any other drawers up here. So I'll snap in the sink front, and that's going to have the two catches here that line up with these catches here and over there, and they'll just simply slide on there, and they're like ratchets. You'll hear them click, very fine clicks as they go in. Maybe it's not. Yeah, it's just a friction fit. It's not a ratchet fit. Yeah, and that, glad the doors are pretty close to where they need to be at according to this, because this what more or less drives everything else about the spacings and how those go. So I also realized I got to take this drawer back out because I got that side filler. Yeah, I can't put none of the drawers in. I got to take this end panel out over here, which is held in by some screws from inside the cabinet, so I can add a piece over top of it to bring out the filler flush with face of the drawers and stuff. All right, let's see if I can. You're being held in pretty good still. How are you held in? Now, what did I do? I'll bet you I nailed that sucker in. Little teensy brad nails. That's just holding it just so. Nope. Good. Okay, good. I like being wrong in that case. But anyway, yeah, see, this could not be one of the flush fillers. I had to deal with the end grain, the edge grain of the plywood, so I put it flush with the face of the carcass so that it would line up and not show any of this end grain. But the new filler has that finish on it like I showed you downstairs. So I'll just cut it the same size as this and screw it in from the back side, like I'm going to do these panels over here. And then when I get that back in place, that'll be out in front and it'll line up with the drawers on there, so everything's in plane, nice flush across the way. And that'll just be another piece exactly the same size cut on the table saw. So the next thing I need to do is to remove that toe space and scribe that bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and reposition this a little bit. And I don't know if you can, I got to bring it in for a close-up. You can see that this panel rocks terribly. So, and I got that room described, so I'm going to go ahead and set this at the dimension that this is above the countertop, and that'll give me this difference from the bottom of the countertop to the top of that panel. I've set my scribes to the dimension that I need, and now I'm going to go ahead and run that across the floor so it leaves me a pencil mark on the bottom of the panel that'll graduate itself, because this will ride on that floor, and I'm going to be able to cut that and make that fit that floor very nice. Okay, see what we got. I don't know if I like that mark. Evidently the scribe moved on me and I have two pencil lines there. So I'm going to scribe again one more time. Evidently I did not have the, I didn't have this thumb screw set strong enough to keep from closing back up on me. So I'm going to give it a little pinch iron again. Yeah, that's tight. Okay. And the cabinet's back tight against the wall, so that will start with this back tight against the wall as well, so it matches the cabinet. And let me check my space that I have. I got to make it grow just a little bit more. Boy, that cranked down pretty tight. All right, that's a little bit too much. That's got something to go by now. So let's see. Now I know that's a good line all the way across there. So it does taper out to nothing, and I'm going to take this downstairs and do that cutting. And what else? I'm going to do something again before I come down, before I go down. Because I can pull this toe space now. I have my little good drivable, got a very thin edge, and I can drive it into the edge of that toe space and get that pried out, because then I can cut those at the same dimension as these are. See, that went right in there. I didn't want to pull too hard trying to drive the palm drive. When I was doing it earlier, I was trying to do that, getting these claws by palming it into that small gap, and it just didn't want to do it. The nails are holding pretty good. The brads. And I'll show you when I get this pulled out the rest of the way. There. I was using some 2-inch brad nails, but they're very fine. And the holes in the front are very small, especially in that location down there at the base level. Again, very fine holes. and it was doing a very good job of holding it. But now I can cut this the same length as the other one, the new one, the same length as this, and I'm going to pull the other piece off also. And I'll be able to rip my filler, cut my base, my toe space, and bring that back up as a finished product. I don't know if I'll be able to bring up any drawers or anything like that with me. I know I'd mentioned that earlier that I'd be able to do that, but I'll probably have my hands full because I need to get the, again, I'm just trying to move everything as efficiently as I can, and sometimes it doesn't work that way all the time because I can get to knocking around stuff or letting myself work in a cluttered spot, which do as I say, don't do as I do. Sorry about that. Just an expression I heard a long time ago. It's not appropriate for this. My apologies. And that one popped off real easy. So I'm going to fold these nails over so they don't poke something really bad. All right, and I'll take these 4 items. The filler here, these 2 toe space pieces, all going to be trash in the trash pile, but carefully take this panel down so I can cut it. So I'm going to run these down. Down here in the garage again, going to take the filler that's from the cabinet on the 2nd floor, which fits the wall nice and tight. I believe I table sawed this evenly all the way through, but I'm going to confirm that by setting the fence to the piece. And also take the panel and rip that down to the taper on the bottom as well. So once I get this set aside and get this set up, and just confirm that it's the same thing all the way through by giving it a dry run, so to speak. And yes, that is the same even run all the way through. So now I know I can get the very same thing out of this, but I'm going to put a little extra thing on this by beveling the blade just a little bit, so I make sure the face of this piece meets the wall tight. And with that bevel, the back side will fall away a little bit and ensure that the face of this piece hits that wall as tight as can be. So I've already beveled it over, moved the blade over to a bevel. No, I haven't. So I'm just talking about it. All right. I got it about, it's actually more than what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be too crazy. It's set at 10, but I want it to be at about a 5. There you go. And I'm going to give this now a dry run because I set it a bevel. That's going to change the top. All right, I had to readjust the fence. As you can see, it took a couple of tries, but I got the blade right where I wanted it. And I have another detail that I throw into it too, and I'll explain that when it goes upstairs. Okay, I'm going to turn the blade back to 0 again, to 0 degree vertical cut. And I'm going to do what I can. I didn't bring my track saw with me, so I'm going to, well, you'll see what I'm going to do. Hopefully it'll work out well. Well, that looks like it did. Followed the line very well. It acted like it wanted to try to move off the blade, but I was able to pick back up. I could always cut more, but I can't replace the wood that I cut too much, but I never cut off too much. So it worked out good. I'm going to go ahead and grab these pieces, the panel and the camera, and run them upstairs and start assembling this stuff. Oh, no. I can still cut my baseboard length because I have my 2 pieces down here to cut those, and I can carry all that up. And I have my base over here. I'm going to go ahead and do that still. Like I was saying, this should be very straightforward. All I need to do is finish face to finish face so it doesn't scratch up nothing. Hold that mark there. Sorry about that. And I don't have a pencil with me for whatever dumb reason that's occurred. But I can still mark it with my razor knife in my pocket. Get a little score mark to see where my cut line is there. Come down here and grab the other piece, wherever I have that at. Sounds like it dropped. And it did. And hold that one up in the same spot. And score a mark with the razor knife. Make sure it took a line, and it did. And just cut these both ends off. All right, so between the left and right of this, that's ready to go. These two pieces for the fillers and the panel, I'm ready to go. All right, folks, I've moved everything up here for the time being. Again, what I can make use of with my hands full and trying not to bust stuff up as I go. So what I got is a baseboard and the filler spaces here, and I'm going to go ahead and get this panel started here. And actually, what I'm going to put the base pieces in because this is more or less the stack of cards that I have. This is a very, I won't call it a tight bathroom, but with everything that I have in here trying to do and having a camera set up and stuff, it really does take up the real estate that I need to work in. Well, just everything in general. But I'm going to go ahead and get these pieces put in down here at the base level and see if what I have here. I'm going to move this camera down just a little bit more. And it's really not a camera, just to let you know. It's just my cell phone. It's a phone that I love. I've had that brand for years. I buy it. Anyway, I won't get into that detail. So get that flush with the end. Good. And the other piece goes on the other side. Now that's kick space is done, I can actually push that back in. I think I have just maybe enough nails. Son of a gun. The only thing I didn't do was bring up enough nails to shoot this thing in. Anyway, I'll come back to that, Lord willing. I have to. I can't forget it, Okay. I'm going to go ahead and attach this to this and make that the doubled up panel that it's supposed to be by running some screws on the back side. And let's just see how this goes. I'm going to pre-punch them. I have my countersink to get the screws in the back. These are 1.25" screws, so I can countersink them a little bit to get myself a little bit more depth of grab in there. Making noise. And just got done. This is my actual finished piece. I'm going to go, I have another, lordy. Yeah. Anyway, I can go ahead and I can work with this to a degree, so that's a heartbreaker. Okay, counterbore back with these. And then get some screws in there. And there's one that I can catch up with. Okay. Now this should be just a matter of slipping this back in the same old spot where it came from. And it does actually just exactly that. See if I have my 7/8 there. Looks a little strong, and it is. That was a fight. All right, now I can get some room back in here because I can put some drawers in on this side. Okay, so that's all the cabinets for doors for that side. So I'm going to go ahead and start on setting this panel here. I'm going to pre-pilot some holes. I don't want to wind up getting caught in the same way I did with that other video. On that island, I do have the holes back too far because I don't want it to get into that panel edge. So I'm relocating the holes because I don't want the screws to come popping out through this panel here. So I move the screws back from the inside of this carcass here, so that the screws will come through in the right spot and go into the rail and not the panel. I had that happen on the other video, and it's like, I really don't want that to happen again. And get everything counterbored mildly. Not counterboard, countersunk. There's a difference. Now I know in the other video I advocated a different detail about taking clamps and using that to hold it in place, and that's when the panels are free floating, they're up in the air, and they can move around any way they choose. But these are literally just pushed up against the wall tight. I don't have to worry about them getting jockeyed around. It's sitting on the floor, so it's already very well located in its place. So I can pretty much just get this set and get the screws in there, and I piloted the carcass this time, so I don't have to worry about that point drawn, pushing the panel away and then drawing it back. It'll just simply grab it and draw it because I piloted the hole. Yeah, I don't have that issue at all with this. These are just going in straight away with no concerns. See, now I got the front held in place, I can reach back in there and I don't have to worry about that panel coming away, because one, it's not that big. The other one was 3 foot wide, where this is only like 22 inches wide. And these screws will keep it from trying to pull out so that it doesn't want to flop away. It will push away a little bit, but that'll be enough for it to get these points to start and grab that piece and get it back in again. You heard that. You heard the drill. It drew up tight. And I have the pilot holes in it, so I know it's grabbing the wood and pulling it right away. There's no guesswork. That's the difference between piloting and just taking the screw directly into the material. Because if you take it directly into the material, the threads are grabbing the material and wants to push that away. But if I have a pilot, then the threads are spinning in this one, not grabbing it. It's only grabbing into this piece here, which then it immediately pulls it in place. So this is it. This is in. And now I can put these drawers in. That's looking good. And I got the bottom one here. in the middle one there, and they actually gauge that. I can raise this one up a little, but that's already even with the bottom of the door down here. So it's actually looking pretty good. I actually need to lower these right here to get this line up with the door over here. So we're not done yet. There's still adjustment that has to be done. But this is starting to shape up. I'm going to reset the heater back in place because I don't need a piece of base not base, but toe space. I don't need that toe space nailed in just to get this back in place. So, but I'll hold off on screwing it in because I got to go down and get nails, and I can make that trip to come on up and bring up the other two drawers that I need to finish off this other space over here. And then I can adjust everything, and then the hardware will be the thing that goes on after that. So I'm going to pause it. I did some cleaning up. I got the piece of toe space nailed up over there on the far end with a few nails that it needed. And I got the compressor out here with the nail gun and the air hose. Well, actually I haven't gotten the air hose out yet, but it opened up some real estate for me to use for my feet to turn around off camera. My feet are off camera. Didn't see all that stuff that I was trying to shove around. Well, the compressor. Anyway, I'm going to start adjusting the drawers because, again, this one needs to go down to help even out these gaps. And some of them are running tight here. And it's just a little bit of finesse here and there, just a little bit of tweaking. And I usually do that with a hand screwdriver. I don't prefer to run the screws with especially these, with a regular drill. Although I have in some cases, because sometimes I just can't torque them enough by hand, and the impact does a much better job. So I'm going to start with getting the doors aligned with this side of this upper panel. And that's just, just the least little bit of adjustment. I'm talking quarter turns and such to get them. It's a whole lot of trial and error, but I'm going to start with that. Actually, I turned it the other way, the wrong way. So I'm going to turn it the other way. I guess, yeah, there you go. Doesn't hurt if I have the right one to begin with. So while that one's closing, I'm going to, actually that one needs to move in also. All right. So that's looking better. And they run nice at the top, but it's like the sink front's actually dropping down a little. Let's see if I can force that up to some degree. Because I can see the tapers. That's not bad now. It must, yeah, there you go. It moved, and that's a beautiful thing. Because that's what it needs to be. Now I can raise both doors up. And I got to do that with both hinges, raising them up. So let's see which way we're going. That one's up. Okay. And good. That's nice, and it's actually lining up with this drawer very nicely. So that being said, now I'm going to see if these adjustments can be made. Because these also have an adjustment where I don't need to mess with the drawer front. And these are not the kind that do that. Okay. So they are all in the drawer front. So I got to loosen up the screws about a quarter of a turn. Check it. Check that. I got to move this way just at least a little bit. And then tighten them back down. I'm only going to do one side because I still might need to adjust it still. But that is looking rather nicely. I think I can push this side up, and since this side's loose, I can do that pretty easily. And that's all it took. I'm going to check it. And that gap beside the door is perfect, and this one still needs a little help, so I'm going to cinch this one down. Okay, and move on to the next one. We got this one moved over to the point where I like it at. Got a nice even gap top to bottom. And now I just got to take this drawer and move over that way to match the gap on this side. All right, I got the drawer fronts all equaled out the rest of the bumpers on the drawer faces, so everything is lined up in a good fashion where I'm comfortable with setting the door hardware on. Now, just to touch base on the way that these handles are installed, of course, you know, probably if anybody's done anything, they'll see that they're mounted with 2 screws in the back, and all of them in this case are actually the same size hardware. The reason why I mention that is because a lot of folks will be very happy to mix different sizes of hardware, a longer pull of the same style versus a shorter pull in one place versus another place. Like small drawers will get this size, and longer drawers or wider drawers will get sometimes 2 or 1 longer one because it fits the face better. So this right here, all the drawers are the same size. They have all the same size hardware. So what I have is a drill guide, and this has probably been one of my better investments that I have. It gives me a stop to place up against the edge of the drawer. As far as for drawers, it's used this way. It has a stop to put up against the edge of the drawer to get a good center. This is for narrow drawers, and for doors too, for that matter. Anyway, and I have 2 adjustable, drill guides. And I'm presuming this is a 3-inch guide, so I'm going to set each half at 1.5 inches, and I'm just going to check it. I've already got this one set, but these are adjustable. They can go out all the way to the ends if need be, and then this will set it from the top of the door 2, from this to where they want the handles located at. So I'm just going to confirm what I have here, and I'm going to place it this way and see if I can sight the holes. Now I can drill the holes into another piece of material, but if these sight through to where they are dead on the other holes that are on the drill guide, that is just as good. But I'm seeing that I need to move it out. No, move it in just at least a little bit, and I see why. Because I'm not exactly on the 1.5 inch mark over here. So once I move that on the 1.5 inch mark and tighten them down, these should wind up being exactly where they need to be. And I'm actually going to take a screw and run them through the drill guides and put them in to the handle and see if I have the play that I would expect, because the drill guide does have a little bit of extra room, so to speak. So if I can shift this to the left and to the right in the drill guide itself, then that tells me I don't have one of the holes over too far one way or the other. And as soon as I get this thing set up to run in there, and I've got enough thread in there to do so. Okay. Actually, both screws are hitting the inside of the guide, so I need to move this in just again the briefest little bit to get that well centered. Okay, now I have that play left and right like I'm hoping. And I moved it only like a 32nd of an inch. So with that being the proof that I need that it's going to be drilled at the proper center for the handles themselves, now I got to get this set so it is set up in the center of the drawer itself. So I'm going to reposition the thing here, set it down lower. And I want to start with the top. Because that's in the view of the photo better. And what I have here is increments all the way across this thing. And if I get this centered up, say, for example, on the mark here that says 9, or actually it's 6, that's not a 9 upside down, and a 6 over here, obviously it's a 12-inch drawer front, that'll get me what I need right there in the center already. So then it's just a matter of picking it up to where I get the height of the actual panel itself in the center. Now that is a matter of measuring the height of the drawer, which is a 6 1/4-inch drawer. And I have these increments here, so I can place this on 3 1/8, which is half a 6 1/4, and get that pinch screw, thumb screw down tight. And between that number there, and I'm going to move this guide in up to that point, so I'll have that handy reference point right there. So between this being centered now this way, and it looks like I got to move it in just a little bit. There you go. And that being centered that way, I am ready now to drill some handle holes. And I'll drill the first one. And what's nice about these, this one's got a few miles on it, but this is a steel, replaceable steel insert that's in these holes right here. I'll show you. These are replaceable steel inserts, and they're held in place by Allen set screws, so you can take them out and replace them as needed. So that is one of the nice features on this. So you can restore the accuracy of the drill guides, but this will allow your drill to feel what's actually a good reference for square to the face of the cabinet panel. So that way the screws go in, which have to go in square, otherwise they're not going to engage with the hole proper. So that gives me a handy reference for that. So now I'm not just going to go bonkers. I'm going to wind up, I'm going to grab the screws that are necessary, and I'm going to try this one out because stranger things have happened. And that looks like it's going to work there. I'm going to get my drill because I will run these in by hand. I mean, with the electric drill. And test it for looks. And that looks really good. So the two top ones are the same setup. So I'm going to go over and do the two top ones. And now readjust it to do the middle ones, and then readjust it again to do the bottoms. So I used to make these with 3/4-inch plywood. And to be able to have the capacity to use the 3/4-inch plywood and one, drill it accurately is one thing. I mean, you can use drill presses and stuff to make them accurate, but then you have to put a stop on them that's fixed and not adjustable. And then you, in order to do the left and rights, to where like when you're doing doors, when I get to this has the capacity to simply going from this, you'll see the arrangement, but I can actually just turn it around and it works fine. But to do that with plywood and places and stops that are screwed in place, all you need is just the slightest little bit off, and I mean the slightest bit, and those handles will look all wonky. So this is like one of the nicest things that I've gotten. I know I've said that already, but and for what it's worth, the exact same unit that I got right here, I don't even need to mention a brand name because there's like a different number of vendors that has the exact same thing, some with different features, some with not, but it's basically the exact same thing. Incrementation, the color, the amount of pieces. Anyway, so I'm not going to mention any brand names because there's a lot of brand names out there that actually provide this particular unit. And like I said, it's easy to find out there. There's plenty of them. So now I'm going to take that same center and I'm going to adapt this for the doors. And now I'll be setting the doors in from the side and from the top. So I'm going to turn this around because I didn't set it up for the door, going with the drawers in mind. So now I'm going to set this so I can hang this on the top of the door and move that in. So the handles are going to go in the middle of the rail. The rail is the, middle of the sile. The siles are the vertical piece, the rails are the horizontals. And that rail is a 2 7/8. So that's 1.5 inches minus a 1/16 is the center. 1.5 inches minus, that's how I have to look at it, 3 inches. 2 7/8 is 1/8 of an inch shy of 3 inches. So half of a eighth shy of a 3 inches means a 1/16 shy of 3 inches, which also boils down to 1 9/16 inches is the other way to actually say it. And what's nice about this, I can take this and once I get this height established, which I haven't yet, I can just simply drill this right here and then reverse it and put it on this other door with no problems whatsoever. So that's what I'm going to do next is get that height situated. Actually, I better find out what it actually looks like in the picture. All right, I had to use my phone. That's where I keep my storage at for all my job site info. I use a product that allows me access to it wherever I'm at. But I was accurate in the recollection where this one hole for the handle is centered in this top stile, which is 4 inches. So bringing this stop 2 inches different from that one, which I'll measure because there's incrementation on the guide, but not when you're, well, I can do some adding, but I don't trust my adding. It's about 1/8 of an inch higher. So I just got to get it 2 inches from the stop, and there it is. Okay, now, with all this arrangement, this keeps me from the edge of the door proper, and this keeps me at the top of the door proper, and then my 2 holes right here, there and there. But this keeps me from the top of the door, and this keeps me from the edge of the door. And that has served its purpose very, very well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and run all the screws through holes first. Get them in place. That way all I got to do is hold the handle in place. Okay, all I got to do is just hold the handle in the right spot and screw the handles in place. I don't like when they don't give me the right length screws. That's sad. They're only barely coming through, and that one bottom screw does not want to do what I ask of it. All right, I gotta run down and cut off 4 screws and regrind new threads on the end, because if I just simply cut these with a pair of pliers or whatever like that, it's going to damage the ends of the threads and they will never start into the opening to the threaded parts here in the back of the handle. So I'm going to do a little grinding. I'll show you what I got. But all right, I got these screws cut and show you what I got. This is the original screw that came with for the doors. They're only 3/4 of an inch thick, but this is only about 7/8 of an inch long. And with that recess that was in the bottom of these handles, that gave me like nothing for this screw to tap into. It only caught like 1/2 of a thread. And I was hoping it was going to do it, but when that bottom one didn't even catch, I went, no, it's not going to happen. So what I did, I took the longer screws that were for the top drawers, where they go through the actual back of the drawer and through the face of the drawer face as well. They take a longer screw, and those were cut proper to length. They were already issued the proper length, but I had 4 of them left over. And so what I did was take the original screw and I added about another 1/8 or so to it, and I cut it off to where those 4 screws that I had left over from the other selection to work with, I cut that longer, so I have a longer screw to tap into that handle. Now the trick is, when you're cutting screws on site, they don't give a clean cut, and you need a nice clean thread that goes into the back of that handle. So I ground that down so it doesn't have, but that one might not be the best candidate, but I ground them down so it has one thread, because I cut at an angle or whatever like that, and there's another thread just kind of wild, it'll want to try to catch that screw, that handle, and run around at an angle. It's what's called cross-threading. Bad news when that happens, especially if you're working with just the right amount of screws. I always like having spares, but I don't have spares on this one. But anyway, these screws will get me over the top to get these handles on the way they need to be. That's if I mind my P's and Q's, because again, these are site cut screws, or at least cut the length. Now I got about 1/4 of an inch popping through. I have the length that I need. And let's see how this goes. That one went right on there. And that one's dropping in also. That's good news. That one's done. Thank the Lord for that. Okay, now this one. That one started well. And that one did too. Very, very cool. All right, that has got this done. Everything's centered up well on the stiles, centered up well on the panels. This baby is done. All I need to do now is spend about an hour's worth of cleaning up down in the garage where I have my cut station set up at. This, I moved some stuff down as I was going, so this will not take too much to do. I will come back after I pick everything up and give it the last once over. I always walk over everything. Not literally walking over everything, but I look everything over one last time to make sure there isn't nothing left behind, nothing undone. It's just a good practice to make sure that everything's double checked. So with that, I'm going to call this done, and I will catch you in the next video. Again, if I have my subscribe page set up, or if there's a way to take a link and you like what I'm doing here, I'm going to try to videotape every job that I have going on, and I'll show you all the things that goes with it, all the uglies that goes with it, all the trials, because I tell you what, I've been doing this for 52 years, and I still catch myself having that thing just happens that's not expected. Things take longer. Like, I figured it was going to take about 2 hours to do. I'm on my 4th hour, and it's kind of like, oh well, you got to get the job done, and the job has to be done right. So anyway, that's what I have. That's what I'm giving the people. So again, if you find value in this, I appreciate you signing up or even liking something that I've done. So that tickles me to pieces. I'm hoping only somebody can learn something from this, is what I guess is what anybody could ever hope to. So anyway, till next time, thank you.